Shalom friends in Yahshua. This is just a quick video to say hi to all the people that sent me an email last week. The first question I think was, my name is from Scandinavia. My family came over to the British Isles about 1,000 years ago, and most of all my relatives have got clan names, so it is a Scottish name. And during the Reformation, I think most of the clans were still sort of under papal Rome, unfortunately, but many of them were under the Reformation, and actually claimed themselves to be lost tribes of Israel. That actually they said that God revealed to them that they were part of the lost tribes, which I know the great comedian Woody Allen talks about. Some of the tribes should remain lost, and so they should. But the very name Ephraim in the last days just means, part of that name just means fruit of the nations. So the fruit of the nations that will come out will be the anointed, 144,000 from the old tribes of Israel. So that's something to look out for. It hasn't happened yet. Jehovah's Witnesses say it's happened, but it definitely hasn't happened yet, and they will be raptured and stand with Yeshua on Mount Zion. But with regards to this time, we're commanded to eat unleavened bread, and there are properties in unleavened bread and in custard and in other mixtures that actually harden if you apply quick pressure to them. Now, the ones that think there's going to be a rapture at this time, I would recommend just to obey the Bible, because we don't know all the reasons why God commands His people to do things. But I'll give you an instance about custard. If you fill a pool with custard and run quickly across it, now the quicker you run across that custard, the more hard it will become. It will solidify, and if you stop, then it will actually suck you down into the pool. Now, I'm just talking about time travel. Thinking about time travel, I'm checking out Gorilla 199's videos, and very, very, very kind of in depth, and it's great to have a guy like that on another guy like that on YouTube. That kind of that knows Jesus, that knows the true Messiah, and that has got a really good ministry out there. So basically, time travel. We know that Yeshua went into eternity. He was taken up from this age into eternity. So was Elijah, and we know the angels visited Abraham and Sarah, and perhaps during a holy day as well, and they ate unleavened bread. So the whole concept of physically changing dimension, from this light, from this world into the heaven itself, or I think there's various heavens mentioned. There's the third heaven in some scriptures. I think Paul was taken to. There's also the seventh heaven that's mentioned in books such as the Book of Enoch, I think, and other scriptures. So it's very interesting, that why God would command us not only to eat unleavened bread, and I've enjoyed a lot of Jewish recipes this week. Of fillet fish, and I've made potato and cheese latkes and so on. I've shared them with the neighbours, and which again is a witness about Yeshua in these last days. Now, I just want to quickly move on to the reasons I keep a lunar Sabbath, and I've listed 5 here, but there's so many different reasons. There's a nice woman on MySpace called Barbara. I thought she was a nun at first, but she has gone through some objections of the lunar Sabbath, which I looked through very quickly because the page is so long. But maybe I should be praying for her to get a husband, because I guess Paul the apostles don't allow women to teach in the body, and I think that's why it's important for men to tackle these issues. First reason I would keep it is prophetic years such as in Daniel and Revelation indicate 360-day years, averaging 30-day months according to creation. Okay, this is the calendar that God has created without naming them after pagan days or inventing a 7-day cycle at some point in history that we don't know about. God has created this calendar, and refers to them in prophetic years as 360-day years. Okay. Second reason: all rest days mentioned in the Old Testament fall on either the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd or 29th of the lunar month, bar none. So there's a 1 in 7 chance of that happening, certainly. But isn't it amazing that that 1 in 7 chance, every time it mentions a rest day in the Old Testament, one of these days are mentioned, either the 1st day of the month, the 8th day, the 15th, 22nd or 29th. Coincidence? I think not. Moeds. All holy days are determined by which day of the moon we are on. Nowhere does it give exception for the Sabbath. Okay, a lot of people try to turn that around and say, well, we're not commanded to observe lunar Sabbaths. Yeah, but why then are 6 out of the 7 feast days of Yahweh determined by the sun and the moon? And again, they'll try and turn that around and say it's just the moon. No, it's actually the sun and the moon that we determine these days on, and it's the same for the Sabbath. And there is a 7-day cycle within the lunar month. Okay, there is a 7-day cycle within the lunar months, and this is the reason why, of course, Constantine, to try to destroy, our fellowship with the true God, because God commanded us to have fellowship with Him in certain days. So to try to shake that and destroy that, Constantine introduced this calendar. He wasn't a Christian man. He didn't love the true God. He worshipped all sorts of pagan gods. And we know that Satan is a very wise and subtle adversary. So this is the reason. He obviously doesn't want his God's people to come and worship the true God and worship in His true name and the correct times. He wants to try and break the body up, of course. And I'm fine about going to worship places as long as you go on the right day. I think you'll be blessed, and I know I've experienced that personally. So the next reason: no pagan day or month is mentioned in any of the scriptures. Okay, again, just going back, to the fact that Constantine divorced the counting of the days. By using the sun and the moon, which were created for times and seasons and so on, for Moeds, and introduced his own. And of course he threw in the pagan feasts that are fixed in the modern pagan calendar. And I think there's going to be I think there's been at least 2 or 3 reformations of the Roman calendar. From the Julian calendar along to the Gregorian calendar that we're on today, and I believe probably the present Pope is going to try to reform the calendar again, because I think they have to rely on the moon for Easter, which they don't have to for any other feast day, all the other pagan feast days on the calendar, like Christmas and things like that. But I think he's going to try and fix Easter so that it's completely and utterly divorced from Yahweh's Moeds, which use, of course, the sun and the moon to determine his feast days. The next reason I have here, in Leviticus 23:15-17, we are commanded to count 7 Sabbaths until we count another 50 days until Pentecost. Okay, nowhere does it say to count 7 weeks. Weeks, basically, were a pagan addition which happened later in captivity. No such thing as weeks, okay? There are new moons, there are Sabbaths, and there are 6 days that we work, and then on the Sabbath we rest. 6 days we work, on the Sabbath we rest. 6 days we work, and on the Sabbath we rest. And another 6 days we work, on the Sabbath we rest. And then comes the new moon, and there were different sacrifices for the new moon prescribed in Leviticus. And then another 6 days we work, and the Sabbath we rest. So that's God's ordinances in His creation, and I would much rather keep them, and I have kept them for about the past 5 years or so, and been blessed by doing so. So I'm not about to divorce myself from Yahweh's Moedim and refer back to the Roman calendar again. I would rather not, personally. But again, it's up to you. So whether you've found this video on a search engine or you're actually subscribed, it's something to think about in your walk with the true Messiah. And if you want a business, certainly I believe that Yahweh will begin to bless you more. Holy Spirit has led me into these things, and they're wonderful things to keep. So may Yahweh bless you and keep you. Until the next time, Shalom. This is John Bob signing off. Bye now.